All right, so those are fatty acids. Okay, fatty acids we are going to be getting from this dude right here. Okay, we get them from triglycerides. We don't talk about, well, we do talk about triglycerides, but when we talk about it in the common vernacular, we're sitting there, you're looking at your diet, you know, my doctor says I need to get more omega-3s in my life. That's the fatty acid chain. The fatty acid chain that's coming from here. Right? So this fatty acid chain comes from this dude right here, the triglyceride molecule. And again, we clipped off that fatty acid, and now it's going to enter into the circulatory system eventually in some fashion, and we're going to make energy from it. All right. So now we're kind of going to the dude that gave rise to that fatty acid, the triglyceride. Okay. When we look at the triglyceride, this, here it is. Okay. It is a glycerol backbone with 3 fatty acid chains. Again, the name gives it away, right? Tri means 3, right? So we got 3 fatty acid chains attached to a glycerol backbone. And as you can see, triglyceride is the bulk majority of lipids in our diet. This is the big one here. So we have glycerol, and I have 3 fatty acid chains. This is triglyceride, right? This is the major, this is going to be our major fat, our major lipid that we're going to be talking about when we talk about digestion. Okay, 95% is pretty significant number, right? So there's your vast majority. So this is really the only one we're going to be focusing on. We're going to be talking about cholesterol, okay? But when we talk about the digestion process, it's triglycerides that we're really talking about, right? Because all I got to do is break it. And there's my fatty acid chain that I can now absorb. Fatty acid chain that I can now absorb into the cell. Excuse me. So if a triglyceride is a glycerol molecule attached with 3 fatty acid chains, then I hope it would not be a stretch to remember what a monoglyceride or a diglyceride is. Mono means 1. Okay? 1 fatty acid chain banging on that glycerol. Diglyceride. Di means 2. 2 fatty acid chains that are attached to that glycerol molecule. Okay. Where do these come from? From the digestive process. Okay. From the digestive process. When we pull that triglyceride from storage, where's that guy? In the lipids, in your F word, in the fat, right? And the fat around the midsection. Okay. So when you pull that triglyceride from storage, I'm going to pull that sucker out, and I'm going to and maybe cut the 3rd one, okay? But I'm going to remove those fatty acids. And so a triglyceride can become a diglyceride. Diglyceride can become a monoglyceride. And all it is, boys and girls, is just the removal of one of those fatty acid chains, okay? So when I mention these words, when I'm kind of talking about the digestive process here in this chapter and the process when we talk about metabolism in chapter 8, these are these words, okay? And as long as you know that tri means 3, di means 2, mono means 1, you're going to do fine. When we look at foods, most foods are a mixture of everything, okay? But just from a lipid standpoint, they're a mixture of both saturated and unsaturated. And if I go advance it 1 here, maybe, okay? Here you can see, and I'm not going to ask you the percentage of saturated to mono unsaturated to polyunsaturated. That's not the point, okay? The point is to show you, you can see these are usually a mixture of saturated and unsaturated. So you can kind of see, you know, some of these have a lot of saturated. Some of these have a lot of unsaturated. It gives you a fantastic example. Again, I'm not going to ask you what's the percentage of saturated to unsaturated. That's not the point. Okay. Most triglycerides contain a mixture of both saturated and unsaturated. That's what I would like you to know. Generally, one type may have a higher content of saturated to unsaturated, but just knowing that it's a mixture, fantastic. Okay. In general, beef and dairy products have more saturated fat than unsaturated. Okay, so these are going to be sources that you want to consume not so much of. Olive oil is going to be a rich source of monounsaturated fatty acids. You can see corn oils, they contain a greater portion of unsaturated. So if you want to consume more unsaturated fats, there you go. Okay. Unsaturated fats, there you go. Why is olive oil so fantastic to cook with? There you go. On this picture here, okay, coconut oil. Everyone loves coconut oil, right? So much rave about it. Everyone does everything, literally everything. Somebody will apply this to skin, to hair, all sorts of crazy things. Okay. And here you can see, holy smokes, 92% saturated fat. Oh, I thought the dude, homie just said, man, that this is like saturated fats are like bad, man. They are. Okay. But it's absorbed and metabolized slowly. Okay. It has a lot of medium chain fatty acids, longer chain fatty acids. These are going to take a little bit more time to get into the blood. Okay. So they're going to be absorbed slowly because of that. And we'll get to that here in a little bit. Okay. Because they take a little longer to get in, they're going to be metabolized, utilized a little bit more slowly. Right? So even though coconut oil is really high in saturated fats, it's not necessarily a bad thing. This is a case where, you know, yes, okay, beef, dairy, yes, more saturated fat, again, saturated evil. Okay. You don't want to consume as much beef and dairy because it can raise those saturated fat levels really high within the blood. But here, coconut oil, plant-based, not as evil. It actually helps to raise your good cholesterol, your HDL. Okay. So here's an example where, you know, if you're looking at this, it's like, you're like, oh my gosh, this is bad. I should get this rid of my diet. Not necessarily. If you're using the proper amount, the proper serving amount, you're perfectly fine. Okay. It even helps raise your good cholesterol, which is different from beef and dairy products in that regard.